Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, we'll be talking about, as you can tell by the title, the signs that winter is coming. And yeah, it's pretty obvious if you were to look at the long range. There's many signs of it. Bigger systems, more developed, complex, low pressures, bigger invasions of cool air, and yes, the potential for the first winter storm of the season. And that's what we'll be talking about today. Before we get into this video, if you guys would like to support this channel, I'm a weather hobbyist and enthusiast, not a meteorologist. Consider subscribing, consider liking the video. Obviously, that's the best way to do it. Don't do it just because I told you so. Enjoy the channel, obviously. And if you have any kind of comments, concerns, questions, leave them down below, and I get to pretty much every single comment in every single video. Let's start talking about this. So first off, I want to start off by looking at the GFS, Global Forecasting System. I could barely pronounce it there for some reason. This model is a long-range model which allows us to look, well, potentially towards that transition from a summer, fall, and at times a more winter pattern. And by the way, I always get comments of people asking me, you shouldn't be calling this a fall pattern because it's not fall. You should have been calling this a winter storm because it's not a winter. It's not winter. The thing is, I go off their characteristics when labeling them with their names. I don't decide, a winter storm because, December 1st or December 21st, now it's winter. Winter storm brings snow. It's a winter storm. If it's a pattern that brings large systems resembling of a winter pattern in meteorology, I call it a winter-like pattern or a winter pattern. Not necessarily just because it isn't occurring in fall, it doesn't mean it can't be labeled with the word fall out ahead of it. Okay, let's start talking about this. So first off, again, GFS, very good model. Let's start looking at this. So first off, I do want to say that even though there are signs that winter is coming, that doesn't mean that heat is done. Actually, I would argue that usually during the fall there is a polarization of air masses, allowing in certain portions of the United States. Each year it varies, but there's always an area that sees extreme heat. There's an area that sees cold and very heavy snow. That's always characteristics of a kind of a changing season, a more dynamic, more explosive environment. Not in terms of severe weather type of explosive, but the jet stream gets stronger. The air masses, again, grow stronger, more polarized. And let's start looking into this. So this is a date at any time given point. People are asking when can I see this is occurring? Well, it's right there, 7 p.m. September 12th. So let's just move this forward, and here's the little, you can see Monday right there in small letters. I do apologize. I can't really be going every single day as it just takes too much effort from the tongue, and it takes away from the details I actually want to talk about. So let's begin this. Notice as we push into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we see a lot of systems. We see some storms from the south, a tropical system of some kind making landfall. That could be bringing very heavy rain across the south. So, again, that could be considered a fall pattern, an active hurricane basin. And notice what we start seeing: a large system, large cold front. That's what I talked about yesterday. That's not really a sign of winter coming or the season's kind of transitioning as much as what will happen in these next few slides. So notice we do have the 540 line at this point. There it is, September 16th. So that's Thursday of this upcoming week. And 540 line, for those that don't know, that's basically a line that is considered the 32-degree line. So when we see that line approaching any given area, we know that relatively chilly conditions are coming, especially when it's a summer to fall transition, because in the spring or in the winter to spring, that 540 line could actually mean warmer temperatures if you're seeing, teens and 20s versus 32 degrees. So it's all relative, obviously. As we push this forward, what do we see? Well, we see a lot of tropical moisture, and that's what I've been talking about. But what is a very characteristic of a seasonal change is, well, look at that. Moisture across the Pacific Northwest. Now, it's definitely a bit early this year. Usually, they don't start seeing those large systems kind of berating the coast across British Columbia, Oregon, Washington, Northern California, up until a bit later on into potentially even early to mid-October. And we are right now in early to mid-September. That is good. They're in a drought and they need that rain. And as we push this forward, what we do see is a lot of snow already starting to develop across areas that aren't even the mountains. You could see the prairies of central Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and as we push this forward, what we see is, look at that, all that rain across the northwest, decent snow fall across the higher elevations. Further across the east, well, Yeah, it's a heat wave, and that's exactly what I was talking about at the beginning of the video. Look at that heat. That is extraordinary, and I think that this September will be very similar to September of 2017. It was a very, very, very hot September for many folks. Obviously, not to everyone, because if you were to take a look at the North American view, which is the whole continent, we see quite a bit of chilly air starting to log up across southwestern Canada and some of the northwestern United States. So let me just run it actually using the anomalies now and show you. Look at those chilly temperatures. That is very cold for the northwest. While folks in Minnesota will be saying, wow, this fall has been so warm. Talking to someone in Idaho saying, wow, it's been so cold. Again, the U.S. is very big. Just because you're seeing something doesn't mean that that's the overall pattern. And a lot of times I get comments. I say, it's been a cold winter overall, because maybe it's like 4/5 of the United States saw below average temperatures, and someone in that 1/5 that saw warmer temperatures is saying that's bogus, that's not true. Well, it is, because you don't go off of the 1/5, you go off the majority. And when someone calls a cold winter, doesn't mean everyone in the U.S. had a cold winter, because that never usually happens. There's always someone that doesn't. And notice that heat is very extraordinary, but so is that cold air. That is almost equally as significant in anomalies as this warm air. And the temperature contrast will provide that temperature reading to be very vast. Look at that, 30s across Montana, North Dakota, very, very chilly, and we have 80s, 90s all the way up to the Canadian border. And again, someone may say, how is this a sign of fall and pattern? If you've been, or fall or even winter, you've been tracking the weather for many years, it's often the case that in summer there aren't really as many polarizations of weather patterns. There are always either moderately warm temperatures or kind of moderately chilly. If you were to see such an anomaly across the central United States during the summer, which has happened before, Missouri, Kansas, these folks, if this happened in July, would be sitting in 110, 120 potentially, versus 90s in September, which aren't as unusual because of, well, again, fall, winter, usually it's a land of extremes across the North American continent. And I could say that with confidence because that's both backed by evidence and based on my observations, which I've been noting for the past, almost half decade at this point. So let's go back to the anomalies and take a look at this. As we push us forward, that cold air does make its way into Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa. The exact placement of this, it's unknown. You can see this model is favoring it across the north and western United States. As we push this forward, both the heat kind of diminish and the cool air does as well. But you could see that they kind of remain in their relative places. So the pattern, I guess, depolarizes a bit. Definitely, I would say that there's probably going to be a bit more dominant of a warm air, meaning that the warm air will probably be covering a bit more of the forecast area and a bit at a higher magnitude. I want to make that clear. It's not going to be maybe as cold as it would be warm, but you can see that there's still plenty of areas in the northwest, really, and southwestern Canada that are going to be chilly. Now, if we were to go back, and let's just keep it on this view, because this gives us a gracious view of what the whole pattern looks like. Look at these storms. So if you recall, we did have those temperature anomalies, right? Cool here, the 540 line, warm here. Look at them. They start showing snow. Obviously, again, it's not a snowstorm, if you will, because it's more isolated, that snow. But look how big that system is. Warm front, cold front, a bit of snow right there across Colorado. You're not only affecting the higher elevated areas, but also cities like the capital of Wyoming here, according to this model at this frame. Cheyenne would be seeing some snowfall. Again, not too unusual for them to see snow in late September, which is September 22nd at this time. Look at these giant systems riding into Alaska, British Columbia. Again, a classic sign of fall. That tropical moisture, the energy from the Pacific, they create giant systems, and that's what fall is known for. Look at that. And as it goes way into Canada, it does transition into some snowfall. As we push this even further out, the active pattern continues. Large systems, big storms, and you can see the Northwest does get included on that, which again is kind of a classic indicator of a pattern that is changing. The jet stream gets lower and lower. These storms that have been hitting northern British Columbia and Yukon for much of the summer are now, as we approach fall and winter, are starting to hit, well, more of southern Canada and into portions of the northwestern United States. And that's clearly mimicked by the precipitation pattern. Look at that. A ton of rain across these locations. That includes many locations across the west and northwest, even potentially areas inland, which is good. The south, the east, seeing abundant rainfall again. Probably a bad thing because of the tropics. They've had a lot of it. And the Midwest seeing lots of areas with rain. Now, a real good indicator of a changing pattern is, well, the snow cover is increasing drastically. Many locations across southwestern Canada that are going to be seeing snow and good amounts of it. Alaska, obviously, most of it at this point by late September, almost I would say 90% of it is snow covered, and that gets potentially distributed, that snow, into the northwest, especially if you see that cooler air mass take shape. Now, again, I do want to say that the eastern United States, you'll be feeling more like summer, but again, the pattern overall indicates a fall change. Just because someone is seeing a warm temperature doesn't mean that fall isn't approaching. And once it does, it's going to approach very quickly, obviously, since we're going from such a heat to potentially what I think will happen in November, a quick cool down towards winter. European model, a great model, doesn't go out to 384 hours, it goes out to 240. Notice we have those systems, we have the tropical energy, there's our a rainmaker across Texas. Look at the northwest, constant showers, snow, increased precipitation, large systems as well, according to the European. You could see right there pockets of the 540, meaning chilly temperatures coming in, strong cold fronts. Again, tropical influence is at its peak, you may argue, at this time of the year on any given year. And notice, again, more systems, more buckling of the jet stream, much more snow cover across, and a snowpack, if you will, across the Cascades into Alberta, British Columbia, probably seeing snow into Calgary a few times with this chilly weather pattern. And you could see that the 540 line continuously getting further and further south with more and more frequent visits. With the precipitation outlook from the European model, mimics really what the GFS showed. Quite a bit of precip across the northern and eastern, and especially the southern United States and the west. Look at the northwest. It would be nice to see more locations under this heavy rain, but at least it's starting to get down into Washington, Oregon, maybe Northern California. Some models of the European have been showing that. This one wasn't. This was the one from 12 hours ago. Notice it really showed what it does with today's model run. There's another 12 hours back. You could see showed very similar consistency with what it's showing now. And this one you could see brought a bit more into Northern California. The newest one, not as much. There's going to be some differences. What is concerning? Well, obviously, look at all that rain across Texas. That is definitely concerning. Stay safe if you're going to be in that area, because flooding is most definitely going to be a concern there. So that's the European. Let's take a look at its temperature anomalies. Again, the GFS showed that cool air mass across the northwest, but I do want to say that it goes out way further than the European. While the European does show cool air across the northwest, it's not as significant as the GFS, because the GFS only started showing that significant cool down past 240 hours. What the European does show is, well, at least the place of the cool air is the northwest and southwestern Canada, and the place of the heat is where the GFS placed it. And there are some differences. You can see that there is a bit more heat by the European and a bit less chilly air, but it's definitely there. And if you were to take a look at some ensemble models, which are many models combined, you would see something pretty interesting from the Europeans. So the European models. So this is the EPS. I just showed you European. That's really just one model from an ensemble of 50 models. 50 models. It's a lot. And I want to show you what all of those combined show as with the pattern as we put forward. So notice they are favoring some cool air right now at around 120 hours out. As we push this forward, we see the heat stay across the east and expand across the northwest in intensity and in coverage. However, as we push this forward, what we start seeing is the heat break down across the east, and the west, and the cool air across the west kind of spread towards that area. You could see that right there. And I think that's what will be happening. But this heat may be a bit more stubborn than these models show, and this may not occur into the eastern United States with that cool air and a breakdown of the heat up until, I would even argue, late October potentially. There may be a few brief visits of chilly air, but I think, again, I stand strongly by the statement I've been touting for the past several months. It will be a rather warm fall for much of the United States, other than, I would say, where the cool air is going to be in September, which is really just northwest and southwestern Canada. So yeah, my area, Chicago, we're probably going to see at least several more 90s across our area, and that's a bit unfortunate. But I mean, honestly, there's been a trend, and there's been a trend that this falls have gone on later, and winters have started shorter, or a bit later on, and I think this year will be no different. Obviously, not for the northwest, but again, for the 85% of the country, the heat will be a bit more dominant than that cool air. So it's fair to say that fall will be a bit later this year as a whole, because again, majority wins. Let's take a look at the GFS models. This is another group of models, 31 completely different new models, and let's take a look at the North American view, a bit more widespread. And again, temperature anomalies showing us where it is above or below average. Let's take a look at the 500 HTPA geopotential height. This is kind of showing us the pressure, if you will, of the air at a given height. If it's below, then that means it's cooler. If it's above, that means that pressure indicates that it's warmer. And notice what all the models show is really a profound troughing into the northwest and a profound ridging across the east, resulting in the radicalization of these air masses. And as we put this forward, you can see that both the blue and the red kind of decrease in intensity, and that's because, well, the confidence drops. So obviously they're going to be showing more intensity in the air masses a bit less further out, as they're more confident in that heat or warmth occurring, or cool air. Notice the GFS, however, they really show more of a warm pattern kind of following, and much of that cool air gets suppressed back to the north, which I wouldn't say is total bogus, because, well, again, I think this fall will be warm, and I don't think the cool air will be prevalent across the central, eastern, southern, really even the northern central U.S. for quite a more while. But I think the northwest and southwestern Canada will be seeing a bit of chilly air. So I think these models are a bit too hyped up about the warmth across the northwest. And you may be wondering, okay, so it's going to be warm fall, no snowstorms, right? No, that's wrong. There are going to be snowstorms. There always are. Sometimes it could be even worse, because all it takes is one little cool air mass amongst the air masses of very warm air. That snowstorm has enough, or that storm has enough fuel to turn it into a beast, but it has also enough cold air to tap into, and it could create a winter storm that drops 20, 30 inches that normally wouldn't be able to because of the lack of warmth and the lack of precipitation it has available. Let's go back to the United States, click on the GFS, and I want to show you the total snowfall in the next 384 hours. It's there, and there are some models that, again, are starting to show it across the plains, even though these same locations may be in the 90s just a few days prior. That's the thing. Last year, there was a snowstorm across Colorado. Denver saw its earliest snow in 26 years, but the day before that snowstorm, it was 90 degrees. The snow came, it went, and went back to being very warm. That's how it is, folks. Just because you could have a snowstorm across the west, the Dakotas, doesn't mean that it has to be a cold fall for that to happen. That's not really true at all. So there's a lot of things to juggle, but obviously these signs of snow, the larger storms, the lowering jet stream, active precip across the northwest is indicating that, well, the title, Winter, Fall is Coming, is very, very, very reasonable for what we have upcoming. Taking a look at the Climate Prediction Center, this is what NOAA kind of thinks will be happening. First of all, I want to show you, this is what they thought would happen for for September, and they made this on the 31st of August, 10 days ago. And you can see that's pretty much not what's going to happen at all. There's going to be extreme heat across the east, and it's going to be cool across the northwest. Why am I showing you this? No, not to spite these people and show them that they're wrong. It's just to show you that they can and they do still have the possibility to be wrong, just because they are the National Weather Service or an official source. That's the weather. It's hard to predict. And again, this is pretty much not coming true. Not because I say it won't, but look at their own forecast. This is their 6 to 10 day outlook. That's a good chunk of September. Look how much the heat they're showing. Yeah, that's not going to hold well together with the 1 month outlook I just showed you, which showed cooler temperatures across the south. Again, I think they are a bit too aggressive with this heat. I think the cool air will be a bit more expansive, especially as we go into the 8 to 14 day outlook, which again, they kind of maintain that heat. But you can see for both timelines, they include a lot of heat. So yeah, just alone from how intense this heat is and for how long it will be occurring, that 1 month outlook where they showed neutral temperatures for, again, let me just go back to it. The 1 month outlook where they showed those neutral temperatures for September, that's not going to hold true. And one area they do show heat, it's actually going to be cool. So again, these folks are not always accurate, but that's something to keep in mind, and it's good to keep in mind. Because you can't just blindly trust something. They do definitely the best job they can. I do want to say that, this doesn't include Canada, but if you were to include Canada, this cool air would be extending across these locations for sure. So, the cooler may not look as impressive, but honestly, this is what they think will happen. They may be even incorrect about this, and I do think so. I think it won't be as warm as they're showing it for these areas. It will be more towards the east. But, this cold air, definitely any given storm that passes through has enough of a circulation around it, enough strength, could drag that cool air and swipe it, at least temporarily, across the Midwest. And let me show you that some of the models, like the GFS itself, was showing that. Even yesterday in its model run, I think in the afternoon, it showed that exact scenario that I'm talking about. Look at this right there. It brought not an amazing cold outbreak, but it tracked some of that out ahead of a system, which I could show you right there. It's taking shape, and that dragged some of that cool air behind it. Now the cool air still maintained itself across the west, and it didn't really result in a huge pattern change, but it resulted in a brief cool down. So that's something to keep in mind. And also, looking at the individual ensembles, so the 31 models from the GFS, I want to show you what they show in terms of the snowfall. Let's take a look at the eastern United States. It's very zoomed out, I apologize, but these models, this website only allows us to look at certain regions at once. So I clicked on snowfall ensemble, so total snowfall, and let's take a look at 384 hours out. What do we see? Hopefully this loads. There we go. Well, some models don't show snow, obviously, across the relative areas that we're looking at, but a lot of them do. And you can see some are even showing it. Look at that, into Michigan, potentially, right there into Canada. Definitely decent chances starting to show up, even across areas where it could be 10 to 15 degrees above average. Again, it's not a direct correlation, unfortunately. It's not that easy. Let's take a look at the west coast of the United States now. This one's going to be a lot more lit up with snowpack, and you can see that's true. Look at that, Montana seeing a large system according to the 22nd ensemble model. Some are a bit less aggressive, but all of them do show snow more expansively than there typically would be for this time of the year because of that cool air bias, or sorry, trend that all the models are showing. It's not a bias if it's actually most likely going to occur, and it's what they're showing. Yeah, definitely more snow, more chilly air outbreaks for the north and west, maybe even some for the Midwest, but overall, east, the Midwest, the south, it will be warm, folks. Don't get yourself distracted just because this video says winter is coming, or signs that winter are coming, fall are coming, the season's changing. It does, it's not a direct relationship with, that means cold air is on its way. It may mean that for some, and in this case it will for the Northwest, Western Canada, but it doesn't mean that for it doesn't mean that whatsoever for the eastern, northern, and southern United States and the east. Yeah, I said eastern, right? Yeah, I did. Okay, so yeah, that doesn't mean that at all. And again, I think there still will be snowstorms. Just because it's warm doesn't mean that it's going to prevent any snowstorms from occurring. In fact, one could argue that they're going to be stronger because of the warm air they could reach into and all the tropical moisture that could be coming in. Imagine a snowstorm that uses tropical moisture to its advantage. Has happened before, and it may happen again. So nothing to be sad about if you're a snow lover. It can mean a good thing for you. But again, a lot of heat for a lot of folks and an active pattern. So at least the heat won't be coming with no precipitation. So that's tolerable, more tolerable. You can see decent precip chances for a good chunk of the United States, even portions of the Southwest, which is where they need it the most. All right, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all on the next episode. See ya. Bye.